Good morning, everyone, and happy Easter. I'm Reverend Tress Phillips, and I would just like to welcome you today to the Center for Spiritual Living, Red Deer, Alberta, Canada. Welcome to our celebration of love and life. We did have a bingo on Wednesday, and I want to thank all the bingo workers that participated and those that played bingo, if any of you played bingo. But thank you so much. Your volunteer work is greatly appreciated. And our growing spirit circle for the little children, and then the big children who are in right here, right now, for we are all beautiful children. The word is helpfulness. You practice helpfulness by noticing what people need. Look for opportunities to do service for friends, people in your family, or even someone you don't know. When you are practicing helpfulness, you do not wait for people to ask you. You notice what you need and you just do it. So our affirmation is, I look for helpful ways to make a difference. So if you want to repeat with me, I look for helpful ways to make a difference. And if you want to join me in our opening affirmation, it is inside of our book here, your little bulletin. It is yellow. Okay, let's give this a lot of pizzazz, you guys. We're in control of our voice, and this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. I resolve to live this day in peace, in harmony, and in love with all things. I love myself and my world. I find something of joy in every moment. I affirm that life is good, and so am I, and so it is. So, hey, we're getting ready for some real excitement. We're going to learn all about reveal, release, and renew, and our own Reverend Judy Andersen is going to come and speak to us about that. Reverend Judy.
Is it on now? Thank you. You bet, as soon as I get this thing clicked on. Okay, now for our spiritual mind treatment, our opening prayer. I inhale, and I know that with each breath that I inhale, I am taking in the very essence of the divine. For my affirmation is, God is all there is. So that which we breathe out, that which circulates through our bodies, that which shines upon our earth, that which flows in our rivers and our oceans, that which is the entity, the spiritual core of every human being, the soul of every creature, and every blade of grass and every stone is all God. And today I honor God in nature, in myself, in ourselves, in the selves of our world, knowing that despite appearances, God is at the center of it all, and God is good all the time. I give loving thanks, knowing the truth, and so it is. All right, so our planet, April 22nd, I think that's this Friday, is Earth Day. And that was begun in 1970, April 22nd. And it's a day to demonstrate support for environmental protection. And it's a day to be aware, in our philosophy, not just aware that we need to protect our planet, but a day to be aware that even as we say that we're one with, well, we do say we're one with all of creation, we're one with nature. If we are one with every blade of grass and every creature and with the water, what do we want to do? We want to protect it. We want to have it clean and pure and whole, the same as we want ourselves to be whole, well, and pure and good. So Earth Day on Friday, think about it. I've got a wonderful little quote here from Hafiz. We are house sitting for God. We share his royal duties, watering each day a favorite potted plant, this earth. So let's think about it as Friday draws near, that we are caring for this house plant called Earth. It's our responsibility, and we want to keep it in good health. So thanks for that. And now we'll move on to Easter. You know, most of us have grown up with some really conflicting thoughts about Easter and its meaning. And we think about the being called Jesus. And unlike traditional Christianity, we don't teach Jesus as the great exception. And here, blasphemy, we do not teach that Jesus died for your sins. My own interpretation of it is that Jesus was executed because he went into the city called Jerusalem, which was under Roman rule. And he stirred up quite a bit of a fuss because a bunch of people really liked him and they were calling him a king. Now, the ruling Romans weren't very happy with that. And the people in the temple, I forget what titles they used, but whatever. They weren't very happy with it either, because so long as they kept quiet and didn't make a big fuss, the Romans kind of left them alone to do their thing. But when Jesus came along, they saw him as a threat. Even his Jewish leaders saw him as a threat, as well as the Romans. So he wound up being executed. And I don't know if you realized it, but at that time in history, the Romans were executing up to 500 people on some days in the same manner, by crucifixion. They figured a very cruel death was a good example for the populace to keep low, to keep quiet, to not protest that their lives mattered, right? Anyway, Jesus, I don't want to dwell on that's history, but I want to talk about a little bit about Jesus as the great example. That's how New Thought teaches Jesus, not as an exception, not as something different, but as the epitome of what each one of us could truly be if we put our hearts and souls into it. Jesus went around teaching that God is love. He didn't teach hell and damnation. He taught love. He taught forgiveness. He taught that every life matters. All life matters. And this is the being who is an example to us, not something we can never attain, but something that we can look up to and say, how can I emulate this beautiful being? We can look at other beings in history. We can look at the Buddha. We can look at many of the mystics that some of us have studied and say, how can I be more like that being? We get to make a choice, whether it's Jesus or some other figure in history that has done good things, like Mother Teresa is another one we could emulate. But the big thing is not to celebrate cruelty, but to celebrate the essence of spirit expressing through that beautiful being we call Jesus. That's my take on it. And then we come further into the real subject that I planned for today. What I plan and what comes out of my mouth are two different things, by the way, quite often. But today it's a matter of how we can get started in emulating the figure, the person we most admire. Maybe it's Oprah that we find more reachable, more attainable as an example. But whoever it is, we have to start with ourselves and this process that we call reveal, release, and renew. And we start with the release part of it, where I need to go back to this page. And just coincidentally, when I was looking for a quote this morning to post on Facebook, I found this one by Ernest Holmes. And it says, we cannot stand still. We have to continue to express this action of life within us, because creativity is one divine essence. If we stand on the bank of a river and watch it flow by, we become aware that the river never changes, but that its content is always new. By analogy, we might say that the purposeful, dynamic quality of life within us never changes. The essence of God within us never changes. But the content of our experience of living never remains the same. So does that say our living never stays the same? The content of the river, the Red Deer River flowing through our city, the content of it is always different. The course of it, we always see it flowing in pretty much the same pattern. It kind of looks the same all the time, but if you stop and examine it, if we did an analysis of the water, we'd find it was different day to day. Different when the spring melt comes from the mountains, different in the fall, and different on different days in the summer, depending what has been added to or subtracted from it. So that is our lives. They're changeable day by day, but the essence doesn't change. The essence, which we call spirit or God within us, that is a constant. We can also call it life with a capital L, is at the core of our existence. So life, and looking at where we are in it. Is there something in your current experience that isn't 100% satisfactory? Is there something in your beliefs about yourself that say, well, I would really like to travel, or I would really like to study such and such, or I would really like to have a great job, or perfect health, or whatever. But then you say, but. And some of our teachers have told us, get off your butts. I think that Reverend Doug Craig, that's one of his favorites. So it's a matter of searching within to see what is standing between us and that greater life we think we would like to experience. So this is the reveal part. So one of the ways of revealing what is standing between us and abundance, between us and a new job, between us and a loving relationship, or whatever it is fear or judgment. You ever hear about self-judgment? I would really love to be able to travel, but I'll never be able to because I don't have enough money. Sound familiar? I've had that experience. But guess what? Since I've studied this philosophy and put a lot of it into practice, I've been able to do a lot of traveling. So is it that you would like a new relationship, a new RPM, right and perfect mate? Is it? Yeah, that's an oldie too, but it's a great thing. Or simply a new home, a new vehicle, a new way of feeling. Do you want to feel joyous from one day to another? Is that your deepest desire? Is simply to experience what you might call happiness or joy? Whatever it is, and you're not experiencing that now, one of the paths to find it is meditation. And so you go into a meditation and you ask the question as you start, what is standing between me and this relationship, or between me and my perfect health, or between me and abundance? And you wait for an answer. You might not get an answer immediately. If you're successful in getting into a real meditation, and you'll know if you're there, then probably, whether it's today or tomorrow, you'll probably get a sudden flash of an idea. Oh, this is what's standing between me and this. You know, my teachers always said I didn't study enough. My mother always told me I wasn't good enough. My father always said, we'll never have more than enough to get by on. Find a core belief that is keeping you from what you desire. If it's a love relationship, what is standing between you and that relationship? Is it, I'm not worthy of being loved? Nobody has ever loved me and nobody ever will. You know, that's a pretty easy one to get into if we're feeling alone and abandoned. But ask in meditation for that to be revealed to you, what is standing between you and your good. And be willing to take a serious look at it. It's usually self-judgment of some kind or an expectation. Well, Jesus died for your sins. You should just be grateful you're here right now. That's not a very uplifting sentiment, is it? So get back to looking at that, at what needs to be released. And there's another way of coming to that. You've all heard about practitioners. You all have heard about spiritual mind treatment. One of the purposes when you come to a minister or a practitioner looking for treatment around something, we do what's called a bit of an interview, a little bit of talking to begin with, to find out what it is you're experiencing and what it is you wish to experience. Then we ask a few questions. We're trying to get you to self-diagnose what is underneath this particular form of lack or limitation that you're experiencing. So you're self-diagnosing. You're coming to what we call the level of cause. And when we do spiritual mind treatment with you, we're not treating that you find the love of your life or that you all of a sudden become wealthy. We're treating to know that there is perfection within you because God is within you. And we're treating to know at the very level of cause that your consciousness is cleansed and released of everything standing in your way. and that now you are free to experience that greater good. This is what we need to do, is to release those old messages. And I've said this quite a few times before, but I read somewhere that the average 4-year-old receives around 400 negative messages a day. So think about the negative messages you've received through your whole life. Every adult, every teacher, every other child in your age group, every sibling, every employer, everybody you've ever known, how many negative messages have you received that have taught you that you are stuck in a particular mold, and that is your place in life? Anything you'd like to release from those messages? I think most of us do. And this is where, I guess that release part, that is the most important part of this process, is releasing our old ideas of shame and blame and guilt, lack of worthiness. My family never had any money. Why should I ever expect to have any? Every friend I know has been divorced. What's the good of looking for a perfect relationship? Nobody I know has one. So clean what Reverend Doug also has talked about, cleaning up our stinking thinking. And enough about what we need to get rid of. There are processes. You can do it, but you have to be willing to. And we come to the release stage. And one of the things we do when we're working on the release stage is do affirmations. And we say, I now experience my perfect loving relationship. Or I now give thanks for all of the abundance pouring into my life. Or I am so grateful my dream of traveling is unfolding right here and right now in divine right ways. Things like that, so affirmation. But when the buts come up again and get you where it lives, and something inside you says, it's easy to say that, but it'll never happen, there's a stage we can call willingness. If you do the affirmation and you're getting the negativity coming up around it, start with a gentle place. Start with, I am willing to attract the perfect right relationship for me. I am willing to experience abundance. I am willing to have lots of friends in my life. I am willing to be the friend that attracts friends. So that's like training wheels on affirmations. Start with, I am willing to imagine that I can have that which I truly desire. So start with willingness, and then as that starts taking hold and your attitude starts picking up a little bit, then you can switch to the I have, it is now, I experience. Does that make some sense? So we reveal what's standing between us and our good, and we release that, and we move on to the renew. We move on to the experience of the renewal. And I'm getting totally away from my note here. I might have something important here. No. We move on to the experience of what we have been affirming, what we've been getting treatment for, what maybe we've been working with a practitioner on. We get to celebrate. We get to celebrate our experience. Well, you know, it's a start. I went to Banff for a few days last week. That's just a drop in the bucket of the travel I'm going to be experiencing soon. I am open to being able to travel, and the means to travel come to me in perfect right ways. I met a nice person the other day, and we're going to meet again and go out for dinner and a movie next week. This might be the start to attracting that perfect right relationship for me. It's a beginning. I am open to beginnings. I am open to letting my belief in this process grow and expand and demonstrate more fully in my life. I am willing to be renewed from the level of cause right up to the level of experience. It's a process. And those of us who have been with this philosophy for 30 years or more, like Reverend Truss and myself, she was a couple of years ahead of me, but so I really should, give her due reverence.
I'm the old one.
Even though she's quite a bit younger, she's the young. But whatever it is, can you get to a place where you think you don't have to earn something, where you can simply be who you are and know that there is that within you which is enough and more than enough? You know what? You were enough and good enough when you were 4, when you came into this world as an infant, pure, perfect, and complete, with 10 fingers and 10 toes, or at least most of us had that many. But you were perfect then. You were perfect when you were 4 and getting all of those negative messages. You were perfect when you were a teenager and so terribly susceptible to other people's opinions of you. You were perfect when you were in your 20s, maybe when you married, had children, and kept on judging yourself. You're not a good enough parent. You're not a good enough son or daughter. You should have learned to do things differently. I should have. We need to get rid of those should haves or could haves and simply say, I did the best I knew how at the time. However I raised my family, I did the best I knew how at the time. And that is good enough. We need to be able to say that and release our judgment of what we did or what we didn't. And simply say, I am enough right here and right now. I am enough to experience all the good that I desire. I am worthy to have that relationship. I'm worthy of experiencing abundance, whatever that looks like to me. I'm worthy of having wonderful friends. I'm worthy of having that home or the new vehicle that I require and desire. But you can't get there until you know that you are enough, until you've released the junk in the past. Imagine if your backyard was cluttered with 10 old vehicles. What you really wanted was a beautiful garden. Well, guess what you're not going to have until you get rid of the junk. You've got to get rid of those old, rusted vehicles before you can plant your garden and see the results of it. So know that you're enough, not tomorrow and not next year, but now. You are good enough. You are deserving of the good that you desire. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to say that to yourself. I am good enough right now. I don't have to wait until I lose 20 pounds or until I get a new job or until I do such and such. I'm good enough right now to experience my good. Got it? Reveal, release, renew. When you get that to that place of renewal, when you've left the crap behind, that is when you're ready to start living your new and greater experience of life. You can always say to you, but I am life, waiting to express itself in greater ways. So I've got a prescription. The prescription is reveal, release, and renew. Repeat as needed. If you don't get it all the first time, do it again. Reveal, release, renew. And we have an affirmation. I am life, expressing itself more fully, more beautifully every single day. And I'll do it in two parts if you'll repeat it with me. I am life, expressing itself more fully. Life expressing itself more fully, more beautifully every single day. Now let's do the whole thing together. I am life, expressing itself more fully, more beautifully every single day, and so it is. Thank you. And now we come to the closing portion of our program. And of course, one of the things we talk about is prosperity, not only for the center, for yourselves. And one of the things to start the flow of prosperity in your life is finding a way to give, whether it's a penny or $1 or $100 bill. That opens the flow. So let's read our prosperity affirmation together. And at the end of the service, you can come and leave an offering if you have one in our basket up front. All good is mine today. This is my belief, and in it I stand firm. I am healthy, prosperous, loving, and wise. The spirit is willing, and I am willing. I breathe deeply, give freely, and receive greatly. My life itself is a gift for which I am truly thankful, and so it is. And that, if abundance and prosperity are one of your perceived blocks to your higher experience, for goodness sakes, take those affirmations home and read that to yourself a minimum of 5 times a day. You're planting seeds for your prosperity, or for your health, and for whatever else it is. And our closing affirmation, let's read it together. Rejoicing, I go my way, choosing thoughts and words of kindness and encouragement. I praise generously and love deeply, even as I am loved. Life is wonderful. I am wonderful, and God is the wonder of it all, and so it is. And now just a closing treatment, if you'll join me. I give thanks for the good of this day. It is a beautiful day. It is a day that the Lord has made, and I do choose to rejoice and be glad in it. Without judgment, with an open heart, I simply say, I accept the good of this day in every way, right here and right now, and so it is.